Hello, my little wordlings. As you can see, there is no editing today. I need to get this out before midnight strikes. This thing has been plaguing me for almost a year. The Beguiling by Susanna Gartner. Now, no offense to Susanna, she wrote a great book, but it killed me to try to figure it out. I still have not figured it out, I guess, from various Goodreads reviews that it's just a very unreliable narrator, which is fine. And now that I'm realizing I didn't bring up the one review that I thought was really good. Okay, here. This is the one that I relate to the most. The girls that get it, get it. The girls that don't, don't. Unfortunately, I was a girl that didn't. I feel that in my soul. But I still loved the book, and I don't know why. But there were so many references I didn't get, and a lot of good quotes and things that were written quite beautifully. And I do recommend reading it. Just, I had to get this analysis thing out. I don't have time to edit it, I don't care to. It's just if I let this go past midnight, I'll never do another YouTube video again. And I don't even know where that green fucking square is coming from. Don't fucking care. So let's have at her. How do I even fucking do this with just the. There we go. And I'm just doing it like this because I'm doing a screen record. You broke me. But anyway, so here are some quotes that I loved. And yes, I don't have the skull of infinite knowledge, the crystal skull of infinite knowledge, and I don't have Miss Bronte. I have a giant Pikachu at my back. And I am in a onesie on New Year's Eve, listening to my family freak out because they said, yeah, go do this and we'll figure out everything else. And then turns out there were some issues. The dogs made a mess. But I'm staying in here because I need to do this because my brain's a mess. Anyway, and I'm just realizing now that all the effort I put into animations and presenting this is going to go by the wayside because I am showing this to you like this with a green fucking square around my face for some godforsaken reason. Anyway, he motioned with a bandaged stump to the restless figure trying to sleep in the bed on the other side of the hospital room. There's just the idea of the bandaged stump acting like a finger is a very vivid image, and I thought it was a great line from a writerly perspective, obviously. Anyway, innocent, really, despite the ability to wield that instrument of torture called sleep deprivation, and guilty as hell of original sin if St. Augustine is to be trusted. If babies are innocent, he wrote, it's not for lack of will to do harm, but for lack of strength. Now, as a mom who, now, people have told me, oh, you only had one kid, why are you complaining? Just because your life was hard doesn't mean my life was easier. Just putting that out there. And given that my first book I ever put out there was a memoir on postpartum depression, it's got to tell you something. So I felt this. It, you, like, the baby is out to get you. That's how it feels sometimes. At the gravesite, when the other mourners had stepped forward to add their ceremonial clod of earth to the top of the coffin, I had Pippa in my arms and the shovel passed me by. And now I could be reading into this quote too much. Pippa is her daughter, but I think it's how when you're a mother, you tend to end up fading into the background of life. And people think, oh, she doesn't want to take part in something or do something. She has a baby now. Babies is what's important. Sorry, I'm just so focused on the fucking green square. But anyway. As for sitting in our thoughts, if that's a thing, then most of us could plan on spending an eternity in purgatory, where the porridge is inevitably too hot or too cold, the glass slipper never fits, the beast's great library is printed in Sumerian. See, that would be hell for me. Unless, this is how people understand Samaria. Anyway, no, that made absolutely no sense. Um, I thought this, compared to the rest of the book, this was a bit of a softer view because of the uh, imagery from fairy tales, but it still proved a great point that it's. Have you ever seen The Good Place? The Good Place is a great example where they show uh, Mindy in the medium place, which is technically purgatory, and she gets everything she wants, but not as she wants it. So she gets her favorite beer, but it's always warm and things like that. So I thought it was a great line. He indicated my fridge with a nod of his Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy Chin. It is so specific an image that you can't help but see it, even if you've never seen Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy, even if you've never seen Colin Firth, there's something about it that evokes an image for you. So it was perfect. The Russian poet Anna Akhmatova wrote in a poem bullet holed with guilt, "Motherhood is a bright torture, and I was not worthy of it." And so obviously the way it's written is absolutely beautiful, but the inclusion of it, because throughout the whole book she's talking about how she hates motherhood, but it's not that she hated it, she just didn't feel like she was worthy of it. And I felt this one down to my cackles because I love my kid, but I always still think that I'm not enough as a mom. And he's 13 now, so if I'm not enough now, it's getting like we're getting on here. It's getting a little late. In Akhmatova's poem, the child has died and the mother's hand longs for their burden. She does use that word, burden. I keep wandering through these dark rooms. I keep looking for his cradle. That one brings a little mist to the eyes. I'm not going to analyze it. That one actually is quite clear. Not everything is Julian's fault, actually. This was drawn out in its full 4 syllables, each one punctuated with a bullet by a bullet with my initials scored on the casing. Nothing is Julian's fault, implying that everything is Mom's fault. But so again, this imagery is just so beautiful that she it's like an assassin's bullet that she knows is coming and she doesn't try to dodge it. I don't know, that's how I read into it anyway. Dogs give us a reason to believe in God, which is just so cute, like epitaph worthy. The other woman is unappealing, pimpled flesh on her round arms and legs and a pink, sweating face, like an oversized baby. He can see the pale skin of her scalp through the combed teeth tracks on her thin blonde hair. And again, I wish I could describe people like this. I don't know, people can pick apart these little details to make a whole person, and I'm still working on being able to do that in my writing. And then there is her heart that she feels dangling inside the cave of her body. Another very powerful, thought provoking image that is not just an emotion, but you can see it and you can almost, and then you kind of put your hand over your heart to make sure that it's staying in one place and you're not dangling all over the place and just rattling on your rib cages. All that money and breeding didn't necessarily make their lives easier, but when they were sad or distraught, they were superiorly so. And we all know somebody like this, don't we? See, if I was going to do an edit, I probably would have inserted a meme of some crappy YouTuber who has done probably 10 apology videos, but now you're just going to have to picture it yourself and ignore the goddamn green square. How do I don't even know what any button does here. If you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. Maybe it's like that with unicorns and boyfriends, but words, once loosed in the world, become wild animals. And ain't that the fucking truth? You can't take it back. And especially if you write it down, you definitely can't take it back anymore. Liv shivered thinking about how very young they'd been back then, yet how old they felt. And, you know, sometimes I miss those days where you feel invincible and you feel like this is peak. And then you realize there's no peak, it's all a plateau. It was noted that the side of the bell keeper's head was caved in like a hollow chocolate Easter rabbit whose ears are consumed too eagerly. Using something so innocent to describe something so violent is perfect. And now this is me being nitpicky. It would have been maybe too innocent if you would have stuck with the word bunny, so the use of the word rabbit was probably better in this instance. But I think that would be debatable of how this imagery felt for you when you were reading around it. I'm resolutely pro choice, but there's a degree of brainwashing when you're marinated in Catholicism in your formative years, when you embrace the faith with an adolescent fervor as I did. I'm pre programmed to think of a fetus as a person. So do not murder in the first degree. So, not murder in the first degree, but manslaughter, if you will. My plea, self defense. And isn't it all self defense when you're deciding to abort a fetus that you know you can't take care of once it develops into a baby, or the baby is going to kill you because of complications? It's self defense. And I think that's perfectly valid. And so, yeah, you would never be able to even charge a woman with murder. This is a great defense. But we're not going to get into the politics of that because it's fucking New Year's Eve and I need to get through this. Yes, that's the only reason I'm not doing it. Of course it is. Also, that word marinated in Catholicism, it's like, because it's all over you and it's seeped into you. And oh, I get that. I was baptized United and raised Catholic. So I got it from all ends. Like the Yeti and the Christ, she is both mythical and utterly convincing. Both mythical, both mythical. Please don't click away just yet. I promise it's going to get better, but it won't. So, like the Yeti and the Christ, she is both mythical and utterly convincing, is such a bit of a mind fuck and a great way to explain a person who you just can't say no to. It was as if every hair follicle was tuned to the misfortune of the world. Every nerve lay on the surface of her skin. And see, now bad thoughts telling me I haven't been recording this whole time. I need to check. I have been recording. Thank you for letting me check. Okay, so this is a very visceral reaction to the world and this person that she's describing. I wouldn't describe myself like this, but I find my son's a little bit like this, that like anytime we were in a mall, if a baby started to cry, he'd start to cry. If someone looked sad, he'd look sad. The minute there's something in his vicinity that's not going right, then his life is going wrong. So, okay, so words I did not know. And I did so many slides for horsehair shirt, not realizing I'd already did one. Horsehair shirt, a shirt made of rough animal hair worn next to the skin as a penance. Could it have been as far back as when I was in grade 6, my year of the horsehair shirt, and I willed myself to see, a meaningful crack in the dormitory wall at Mount St. Francis Retreat? So there's a new word to learn, has something to do with penance. I've heard people use it before, but I didn't know that's where it came from. Oblique, neither parallel nor at right angle to a specified or implied line, slanting. But my aunt and uncle have already committed a full purge of anything film related. In some oblique way, they blame the movies. So they're talking about this person committing suicide and they're blaming the movie. So they're trying to draw a parallel between two things that are not parallel. And I've seen the word oblique before and I've kind of guessed through context what they were going for, but it's good to have an actual definition. It gives it a little more flavor. Klezmer, traditional Eastern European Jewish music. The guy you went for coffee with at 2:30 a.m. after the accordion player at the klezmer punk band dumped you. See, doesn't that line make you want to read the book? So don't let my desperation, or that's not the word I'm looking for, is not desperation. Exasperation. Yeah, don't let that hurt you. Read it. Hypergraphia, a driving urge to write. After reconnecting, we remained close, with long confabs thanks to the advent of Skype and my cousin's email-enabled hypergraphia. Don't we, all writers have a driving urge to write? I guess if it's the RX definition, it's gotten to the point where it's no longer healthy and you're neglecting your personal life. And I think I've only done that once, and then I was forced to do that in university. Verdigris, a bright bluish green encrustation or patina formed on copper or brass by atmospheric oxidation consisting of basic copper carbonate. Okay, see the level of language used in this book? He couldn't think of what else to do, so he licked her back, whatever was on his tongue, leaving a verdigris streak. Blah. As I do that, and my tongue looks like shit. So, yeah. Pulchritude, physical beauty, shapeliness, voluptuousness. Whereas earlier they had all blended into one enormous twinkling Rube Goldberg contraption of female pulchritude. Pulchritude? I'm not looking it up. A word he thought evoked not beauty but rotting flesh. Yes, it does. Kind of like Pugsley. Now he could distinguish looks of pity, disdain, boredom, even hatred on individual faces. So we're like beyond university PhD language here. We're in another realm. Inchoate, just begun and so not fully formed or developed or anticipating a preparatory or a further criminal act. I soon found myself in danger of transferring my inchoate rage towards the baby. And yeah, so that is definitely postpartum depression rearing its ugly head. I don't have much more to say about that. Succor. Succor. Pretty sure it's Succor. Assistance and supportive times in hardship and distress. You would think all this would have made me feel despoiled, like some human depository of biomedical waste, or at least perpetually gloomy, but it was the confessions that gave me succor during this time. So, I guess something that holds you up, and it's great that there's a word for it. I wouldn't even know how to go about finding this word if I hadn't read it first. Voikuka, which is dandelions in Finnish. It was tough to be a Finn without ambition these days. What with all the composers and conductors and architects and designers they were sending out into the world as ambassadors of cool like so much Voikuka fluff. Voikuka? I am sorry to any Finnish people out there. And to any English speakers out there. I'm ruining every language right now. Scuttlebutt. Rumor, gossip. The premier called the invitation disrespectful, but the scuttlebutt was that she was secretly flattered. So I thought a scuttlebutt was a person who just got everywhere and had their hands in everything. So I guess it kind of makes sense that it's a rumor and not just a person. Do a bunk, make a hurried or furtive departure or escape. And Anna was the mother of Borbala and her no good brother who did a bunk when his wife died. I don't know where this comes from. It didn't give an etymology, or I didn't look far enough to see if this is British or Finnish, or at one point there's a lot of some Irish idioms, so I'm not sure where it comes from because I've never heard do a bunk before. Klieg lights, a powerful electric lamp used in filming. Well-alarmed citadels with automatic sprinklers embedded in their lawns and motion-sensitive Klieg lights. So it's floodlights, but we say Klieg lights, and I don't know if I actually didn't look to see if that was a word or a brand name. Oh, I'm just remembering how I felt reading this book. Why am I so already confused? And I'm the one who put this fucking thing together. I'm sorry I'm swearing so fucking much. Happy New Year. Bisphenol, a chemical compound primarily used in the manufacturing of various plastics. The extended frosty silence from the sister had a slow-acting toxic quality, like bisphenol. Now, what kind of education or like how well read do you have to be to know this is a word? Where is this coming from? What have you done with your life that you're so smart? Be. Vesper, a service of evening prayer in other churches. It was like studying to play Lysistrata or Antigone in his original. It was like conducting vespers. Did I do any of that? And you're watching madness unfold. Eschatological, eschatological, relating to death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul of humankind. Destiny, eschatological. She came with her guitar and expertise in all things that, although the latter was more of a private preoccupation than a part of her duties at Sacred Heart. And so I guess this describes Caitlin Doty. Love her YouTube channel. Expurgated, not having potentially offensive or otherwise objectionable parts removed. He thought about Dick Diver in The Tender as the Night and knew that he crouched there in the dark, engulfed in smoke. He too was paying tribute to things unforgotten, unshriven, and unexpurgated. I don't think that that sentence actually added a lot of context. Some of these, you have to read the whole paragraph. And there's some words that I didn't know the definition of, but I took them out of this because you would have had to read the whole page to get the context. So, and some words are like that, some scenes are like that. So that's not necessarily to say something about the word itself. It has more to do with what was going on at that particular time in the book. Esters, organic compounds made by replacing the hydrogen of an acid by an alkyl or other organic group. Many naturally occurring fats and essential oils are esters of fatty acids. Even in the rain, the esters, the pheromones, calligraphy of the sacred, the great head points into the wind, the blood thrashes in the thick veins. So I don't know if she wrote this or if it was from another poet that she was quoting in the book. I should have wrote that down, sorry. But again, what have you done in your life that you know what an ester is? And that's two. And if it is another poet, then that's two people who knew what an ester was. And I still don't know what it is. And I looked it up, and I'm still that. Don't make me say it. Don't make me say it. Ibid. Now I added this one because I know what it's used for, but I never knew what it actually meant. So I figured this was a good opportunity. Ibid, short for a Latin phrase that means in the same place or the same as above. She likes to anchor her speech to Latin abbreviations. Where shall we meet tomorrow? He'd ask. bit, she'd reply. And that is, I'm not like other girls, girl. No, honestly, though, I think that'd be an interesting quirk that nobody would get. But if you committed to the bit, good for you. Peripatetic, traveling from place to place, in particular working or based in various places for relatively short periods. He has sought an audience with Otto, but the peripatetic master is always in demand elsewhere around the planet. Guy who likes to get around. Sirocco. I almost didn't add this one because I'm almost positive I added it in another video and then I forgot what it meant. So I just added it again. Hot winds, often dusty or rainy, blowing from North Africa across the Mediterranean to southern Europe. Its rapid movement flickering at just the end of his vision, an icicle slivering to earth, the barest curl of smoke in the wake of a bullet streaking from a gun, the tale of Sirocco wind. And I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but it sounds cool when you say Sirocco. Boulderize, to expurgate, something such as a book, by omitting or modifying parts considered vulgar. So the little dog dies and stays dead. At least we know now this isn't a Hollywood movie or a boulderized fairy tale, because the little dog did not deserve to die. His death hasn't made the world a better place. Not one iota. And I would just like to point out that not all fairy tales are boulderized. Bambi's mom. And yes, that is a fairy tale. Thanatophobia, a debilitating fear of death. The Chinese, Hadley told them, had invented so many ways of dying that the air tasted of thanatophobia. Now that you know what the word means, the saying that the air tasted of it it makes me smile. It just saturates the senses. Okay, crenellation, the battlements of a castle or other building. So, boom, boom, boom. These things have a word. They're not just pillaries. Not pillaries, pillar-ease. If you know, you don't know. Sluice. I think it's sluice. Sluice. A sliding gate or other device for controlling the flow of water. Now that the sluice gates were open, I swear my tears could have flooded the drought-ravaged Sahel belt or set afloat the pieces of the lost ark buried at the snow atop of Mount Ararat. I have to look that up. I have never heard that legend before. Airy, a large nest of a bird of prey. A bird of pretty. Shit. It was a bird of prey. Built high, or an apartment that is high up in the building. Lived often tried to picture the twins with their bags of sweets in blunt cut blonde, almost paper white bobs at the stations in Holly Hill, shouting across the open concept airy at each other in their own version of Pig Latin. And the reason I know that's pronounced airy is for some reason I looked it up before I put it in here. Didn't do it with anything else. Theseus, famous Greek hero, slayed the Minotaur. It was nothing like the twisted lair where Theseus stalked his horned half man. And I think that's just an example of how we don't use Greek or Roman mythology anymore in literature, so it's kind of nice that it was added there. Feckless, lacking initiative or strength of character. Around another, three children play tag, egged on by their feckless parents. That seems like a really bad insult. We should use feckless more often. I like it. Inchoate. Just begun and so not fully formed or developed or anticipating to a further criminal act. After the double-decker tourist buses departed with the daylight, the sallow young men in sweatpants and Peaky Blinders haircuts slid like rats from the cracked stonework. They twitched with inchoate violence, or perhaps it was longing. There were times she considered taking one in to bathe him and cradle his badly shorn head in her lap. Yeah, okay, so this one you kind of have to know a little bit about the reference to get it. And I haven't watched Peaky Blinders that much. That being said, did I already do the word inchoate? I feel like I did it earlier. I am not doing good, people. This is a harpsichord, stringed instrument resembling a piano, and because of how I have it set up, the coat's gone, but whatever. The instrument is the important thing. Fenian, a member of a 19th century revolutionary nationalist organization among the Irish in the US and Ireland, named for Fianna Éireann, a band of mythological warriors. He looked at me, green eyes wide, and said, "Oh, Canada will make a Fenian of you yet." Again, so specific. So we went from chemistry to different Greek myths to history of Ireland. How? How? How is this woman existing in this universe? Larf, Cockney for laugh. Because of the little people, they are so fucking funny, a regular larf riot. So the way this is. Oh no, I don't want to sneeze. I don't want you guys to know how I sneeze. Okay, I think it's gone. So the way it's a larf riot is amazing. I love how she puts that there. So kudos. Bombast. High sounding language with little meaning used to impress people. But a public wary of shrapnel and bombast, of shocking heat and rising oceans, there has ensued a clamor for information from the media and lecture invitations from Ivy Leagues. And this wasn't published that long ago, so it makes sense that it's very relevant right now, and I will not say if I am guilty of using bombast language, but some people are, and I might repeat it sometimes. That's all it is. Last one, detritus, waste of debris of any kind. Some people became oddly attached to their birthing detritus. She's talking about the placenta. Good for fucking her. Gee, no. You know what? Save it. Save it, close it. Anyway, thank you for sticking through that. Again, read it. There's nothing wrong with reading it. And I hope you have a great brain day, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.